Okay, everyone. Good morning and welcome to the Celtic Way morning briefing. This is a YouTube channel for the Champions League knockout team, Celtic, John. It sounds good, doesn't it? It's nice to be back in this comfy zone with all of Europe's best.
It's nice to see everything work out exactly the way you wanted to. That was like my thoughts last night. Obviously, around the first half was just such an adrenaline jump, but reflecting on it after the game and this morning, I'm like, it's just so satisfying that something has worked out exactly the way we wanted. When the draw was made, everyone's going, that young boys game, we'll go into that game and win that game and give ourselves the chance to qualify. That's the ideal scenario. That's what we're expecting, and that's exactly what happened. And it's incredibly satisfying as a fan, as an observer, talking about this, doing this for a living. It's just incredibly satisfying to see it all play out in real time. And now we're set for even bigger nights, even more exciting nights at Celtic Park.
Yeah, at least 3 more matches to look forward to, and they're all going to be absolute humdingers. And I've never used the word humdinger in my life, John, so I must be feeling good. I'm somehow getting the blame for us being a little bit late on. The truth here is that the Kyogo news and just last night in general meant that we needed the extra 15 minutes to work out what we were going to say. Listen, we've got stuff to chat about. It's lovely to have you all with us, everyone. I sense it's going to be a pretty busy video. I just want to say if you have any questions on anything, there's been a lot kind of going around in social media, stuff about players being cup tied and stuff about red card suspensions and the draw that's coming up. And I like to think, well, between us, that we know a lot of the kind of inner workings. So any questions on the Champions League, Kieran Tierney being cup tied, which by the way is not a thing. UEFA did away with players being cup tied, I think in 2018. So that's all good. But any other questions, fire them. I'll see them and we can get on to it. Where do you begin with the last night, John?
Yeah, like I said, it's a lot happened in the 90 minutes that it's hard to begin in any one place. I think if I'm summing it up, it's that, Brendan Rodgers has talked a lot about synergy recently. And what does that really mean? What does that mean between the team and the support? We all know what it feels like, but does it have a tangible effect on results? I felt last night was about as good evidence for it as possible. That first half at Celtic Park was absolutely electric. The roof was flying off Celtic Park. The team were responding to the crowd were responding to the team. There was such an anticipation for that first goal to go in that first half, and it just didn't quite happen for whatever reason. Offside calls, just that final connection not quite there. But it was just an emotional, heart-racing 45 minutes. Now, you go into half-time in a match like that, and what happens, sometimes teams punch themselves out. If you watch boxing or whatever, you put everything into trying to get the killer blow on someone, but you don't quite manage it. It leaves you tired and vulnerable. And we did see that play out a little bit in that second half performance, I feel like. But what I want to say most of all is going into that last 10 minutes, the crowd were absolutely phenomenal. There was a few hairy moments in that second half. It didn't go all our own way. Kasper Schmeichel made an incredible double save. And going into the last 10 minutes, everything's a little bit in the balance. And if you're thinking about the live Champions League table, a draw didn't look that healthy last night the way some of the results were going into this last game. Celtic need that goal. And I thought the crowd really responded in that last 10 minutes and really delivered what the team needed to get over the line. And I think it can't be underplayed what a factor it was, because Celtic, having put so much into the game and haven't found a breakthrough, are staring in the face of a pretty disappointing draw. But they found the way. They dug into themselves and found a way to win that game. And it was really pleasing to see that you see all the words that Brendan Rodgers is saying. You talk about that synergy. What does it mean? Well, it means a result last night. So that's kind of my overall summary of the game. Obviously, we'll get into specifics as we go, but that's my feeling this morning. It was just Celtic all around. The fans, the players, the coaching staff combining together to create a famous European night and tangible European progression for where we've been. And it's fantastic.
Yeah, I think it's a good point you make, and it was something that occurred to me, watching the game, that the fans were really on side. And there was a moment in the second half where I think it was the young boy's right back, and he went over and fired into a challenge, and then seemed like he was riling up the Celtic Park support in a weird way, and I just thought the stadium lifted at that point as well. But we got the goal that we deserved. I mean, we should have had that game out of sight in the first half with the chances, even away from the disallowed goals. The other chances we had, like Kuhn's chance, and Kyogo had a 1-on-1 that he kind of put a weird effort in, and Hatate's shot. And you're right. I mean, the second half, it became one of those kind of nervy games, and I certainly wasn't calm with 10 minutes to go. I was looking at it thinking, are we about to blow this incredible position we were in after 4 matches? Like, are we somehow about to blow this against the bottom team in the league? And then you were kind of looking at it thinking, if they'd have got a goal, would we come back? Could we lose the game? And then, like, could we be completely out type thing? But the team just found a way. And I think there's been a lot of differences between this season and last. And obviously one of them is like the game management. And I mean, John Paul bringing up, that was a game last year that we lose and concede an 85th minute goal. And I think that's a fair argument. You could maybe argue that the opposition was slightly harder last season, but I think generally Celtic are kind of much more streetwise at this level now. But the big thing for me is like the quality we've shown in games in this season's Champions League. Like, you look at the big moments and there's been real moments of quality. And again, you go to Nicholas Kuhn against Leipzig, Maida against Club Brugge, other ones, Kasper Schmeichel's quality. But that bit of brilliance from Hatate last night, that pass is... I mean, someone, I think it was one of the guys on my channel, but I think he watches this as well, saying that was as good as Jota's for Kyogo against Ferencváros, and I agree.
Look, Hatate has had inconsistencies this season. But the thing that you've always felt, that everyone's always felt about Hatate, is he's got that kind of X factor behind him, that he can produce that kind of pass. And he did, you talk about feeling calm in that last 10 minutes. Obviously, if anyone was calm in that last 10 minutes, then they need to study your cold blood, because it was all on a knife edge, and everything was swirling through everyone's mind. I don't care who you are. But what separates sometimes these top players, or these effective players, is managing to play through that and managing to see the situation in front of you and produce that moment of brilliance. And the pass from Hatate is incredible, and that's what leads to the goal. And I know Ida didn't quite score it, but even just him, he's had such a difficult run. It's like 13, 14 matches without a goal. But for him to come into that game and just be running the line and running that defensive line, making that run for the Hatate ball, it doesn't matter that he doesn't finish it. That run was exceptional, latching onto that. And obviously you get the little bit of luck that you need. You need a little bit of luck from here and there. That's football. It's an unpredictable game. It's not something that you're completely in control of all the time. And that's kind of why people love it. That the ball's always live. Something can always happen. But yeah, the Hatate moment is incredible, and that's why he's in the team. And we've kind of seen this from Rodgers, is that he perseveres with Hatate, even if he's not 100%. I thought he was pretty good last night across the board, but he's in matches where he hasn't played well. Rodgers has kept him in the team. He's not substituted him, and it's because he can do things like that probably, arguably, not any others in the Celtic squad can do. So if you're just wanting that one moment, you push all your chips on the table, and it paid off last night.
But see, like, the issue with Hatate, I think, has been sometimes that you look at him and he's a bit careless. It's not like he doesn't have the quality, and that's why he gives the ball away a lot. And at Ibrox and stuff like that, it's almost like you feel like just shaking him and going, "Wake up! This is where you are." Because I think he is quite laid back, maybe not as a person, but as a footballer. So that's why it works in moments like last night, because I agree with you. I think while maybe other players would be feeling the pressure there, he's just not. So it really worked to advantage last night. The thing I want to see from him now, and I agree, he was great last night. Once he was caught in possession in the first half, but other than that, he was great. Tighten up your game. Come on, Rio. That's how good you can be. Just show it domestically as well. I know maybe you don't have quite the same drive, maybe just not quite that same drive domestically for whatever reason. Listen, maybe it's natural, but come on, snap out of it and show that level you did last night, and we'll be talking about you for years. I mean, he's such a talent.
Yeah, I think his natural talent and ability on the ball is unquestionable, and that's why he's still playing for Celtic. That's why he's still starting the big games. And someone just put a comment in the chat there. He's a match winner. Hatate is a match winner, and he's the player that can make a difference in those moments. Another match winner, Kasper Schmeichel, unbelievable double save to keep that at 0-0. Now, he's signed his contract yesterday morning, and he earned every penny of that contract with in the space of 2 seconds last night. That's worth a year's extension, is what he managed to produce in that moment, because we've seen so many times that sucker punch in Europe where Celtic have given a team their all, the team come back into the game and they score a wee goal like that, a wee snidey goal,
goal,
a wee snidey goal. But he stood up and showed that he was just there for the team, and Schmeichel is there for the team. He was buzzing last night. You saw it on his face. He was buzzing after the game, but even before the game, he was smiling with he was smiling in the pre-match, speaking to Joe Hart. He's smiling in the lineup with the Champions League music going up and the fans all behind him. He's smiling during the game. He's smiling after the game. He loves it here. He absolutely loves it, and it was a no-brainer for him to extend his contract. He's got this ambition of playing for Denmark in the World Cup. That's probably where he's going to retire, and Celtic is the perfect environment for him right now to play at Champions League level, impress at the Champions League level, and hopefully win medals along the way as well. So, you talk about the attacking match winners, but defensive match winners are equally important. And the clean sheets Celtic have kept in this tournament are genuinely impressive this season. And Kasper Schmeichel has been a big part of that.
Yeah, I was going to actually bring that up because I'm looking here and we've scored 11 goals and conceded 10. And when you consider 7 of those were in a single game, to concede 3 goals across the other 6 games at Champions League level, it's kind of unheard of. And it's not as if we've been playing diddies in those games. I mean, we've been away to the Europa League winners, and Leipzig have come to town, and every other team, Club Brugge are a good side, and the other teams are champions of their countries. Like, it's a really impressive record. The other one, just looking at the league table, I think is incredible. Only Liverpool have lost fewer games than us in the Champions League, and we're one of only 6 teams to lose 1 game. Barcelona, Arsenal, Inter, Atalanta, Juventus, Celtic. It's not bad company. So this is really good. Just on Kasper Schmeichel, the first save's unbelievable. I mean, like I get, if he'd probably made a basic save, you'd probably be going, oh, what a big moment. The first save is actually a world-class save because he has to move his hand up. It's a strong hand. And you look at, this is the 4th time we've qualified for the Champions League knockouts, and the constant theme through all of the previous ones is having a world-class goalkeeper in nets. Artur Boruc, the best goalkeeper I've ever seen play for Celtic. Fraser Forster not far behind him. And now we have Kasper Schmeichel. That's a common theme. It's something that we all felt in the summer, was that to succeed at Champions League level, you need a goalkeeper who makes big saves at big moments. He's made them throughout this campaign. We absolutely love Joe Hart, but maybe there was an argument there that you needed someone who would make the absolute world-class saves when it came to it. Schmeichel's been a game changer for us at the top level. I mean, maybe without him, you're sitting on like 5 points, maybe, genuinely, because you think of like Bergamo away. Remember the save he made in the Leipzig game when I think we were 2-1 up, and Bruges made some saves last night. I just love the guy. He's brilliant.
Yeah. Roger said in his post-match press conference, which is on the channel if you've not watched it, he called him a world-class shot stopper still at this age, and I can't disagree with that, because I think he is capable of producing that. And you're thinking about it now, Hamish, and you're thinking, how far can we push up this table? What can we do at Villa Park? I know Aston Villa are a very good team, but you know what? I think I said,
are they better than Atalanta?
Yeah, but this is kind of my point. So before I joined the Celtic Way on Celtic AM or whatever, when I was on your channel speaking to you after the Dortmund game, we said, Celtic can get beat at this level. You don't want to get absolutely horsed. And what you want most from Celtic this level, things can go for you, things can go against you, but you want Celtic to be hard to beat at the European level. And that's what you've mentioned there with that thing, only Liverpool have lost less games. You want to be hard to beat. And I think Celtic could be hard to beat for Villa next week. And Celtic will be going into that with that attitude. They'll be thinking, we want another point. We want another win in this tournament. because we want to keep our momentum and keep our forward progress going into this knockout round. A draw is a fantastic result for Celtic next week, and I think it will give the players even more belief. Rodgers has talked about these moments along the way on this Champions League journey. He's talked about the Atalanta game being a huge moment because we got absolutely trounced by Dortmund, and we're going to Atalanta, who can stick 5-6 goals past the team pretty easily if they're on top form. And Celtic went there and produced a steely defensive performance that had flashes of counter-attacking and attacking threat, but became hard to beat. And if we see that again at Villa next week, then everyone's going to be very excited for this knockout round, because if you're hard to beat in Europe, knockout ties become a very interesting prospect, because if you're you might not win a leg, but if you can draw and stay in the leg, then anything can happen. That's football. So yeah, I'm very excited to see what the team can do at Villa.
In terms of your original question, how far can we push up? I've seen some people suggesting we could get top 8. Listen, that's incredibly unlikely. I hate to burst your bubble, everyone, but it's you're basically playing for 2 places, because 6th place has 15 points and a pretty good goal difference, AC Milan. So you're basically playing for 2 places, and we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 teams ahead of us. So you'd be needing like 8 or 9 of them to basically not win, and us to win at Villa Park. So listen, top 8 isn't going to happen. Top 16, potentially, if you get a point. Or, I've said all along, we'll see how it plays out next week, but I've said all along, Celtic, I think, can play at a good level. And I think we've proven that in this campaign, Dortmund aside. And I've always fancied next week against an English team. I always think Brendan Rodgers has an extra kind of thing to show, like he did against Man City in his first spell at the club. So I'm looking forward to next week. The big thing is we don't need anything at Villa Park. We can go, and obviously it's still going to be a competitive game. Like I don't think it's like a dead rubber like you would get in the league.
It's not.
I think it's a big game, but equally it's, for them, it's about getting the top 8. We can just go along and really try and show ourselves, knowing that worst case scenario, we've still got top 24 guaranteed. I mean, this is what we wanted at the start of the campaign when the fixtures came out.
It's fantastic to have in the pocket, and I think next week can be a classic European Cup tie, because Aston Villa they are pushing for that top 8 place, so they're going to be going for the win. Celtic are going to be giving everything because they want to push up as far in the table as possible, because depending on how it plays out, I know there's good teams in the bottom half of the top 24, or in the bottom 8 of the top 24, but if you get a good result, it could give you a better it'll give you a better placing, but it could give you a better draw in a knockout round with the way it works, but it kind of mirrored 9th place, 24th, etc. So yeah, there's it's all to play for next week, and I think both teams will go toe to toe. Be a classic, British football atmosphere under the lights at Villa Park. There'll be a massive Celtic support there. There'll be a lot of people travelling down for it, and it has got all the makings for. And I'm looking forward to just enjoying it and not worrying about what the result's going to be, because, like you say, it's in the back pocket. Qualifications in the back pocket. It's been secured, so let's go for it.
If the league phase was to finish now, everyone, we would be in a wee kind of a wee section with 3 other teams. It'd be ourselves and Juventus, and we could play, wait for this, you might want to sit down, either Bayern Munich or Real Madrid as things stand. And I was looking at the actual bracket earlier, and I believe if we somehow put out Bayern Munich or Real Madrid, it would then be Liverpool, who are just top of the league at the moment. So I'd maybe like us to not finish 18th in the table. Maybe it's a weird thing, because like if you finish, and we got a question in there asking, is it better to finish higher up or whatever?
So fluid, yeah.
But like you could have Man City who are struggling. They're probably going to sneak in like 23rd or 24th. So, and I know they're not great at the moment, but it basically has a bit of luck. But there's also teams in our wee section like Monaco and Feyenoord and Lille and Brest, like good teams clearly. Yeah. But you'd be looking at that as a tie we could really compete in. So, it's exciting times.
It's very good. It's very exciting. I mean, I think we've talked about this before, but the European thing is really energising the support, because the domestic football has become pretty routine of late, and Celtic are just expected to win every game, but the European supercharges the feeling around the club, and it's so crucial that we have this. The support are so engaged with it and so up for it, and you just feel it. You feel it around the whole club. players, staff, fans won these European games, and you want to extend that as much as possible. Having 10 proper European games this season has been fantastic. And then you hope for more. You always hope for more.
Yes. Yeah, very exciting stuff. Henry McClarson was one doing 13 or 15 points in terms of next opponent. JJ McGarvey will need a change of system for Villa. I think his Maida will be suspended, so he will miss the game. Did you see his wee tweet he put out?
He said sorry. Yeah, I mean,
what a hero.
I mean, he didn't need to apologise. It's funny, all the replies under it, everyone's like, you can pick who you want and all that, and I love that part. Because it's true, nobody's dampened their excitement about or their appreciation of Daisy Maida because of that moment. It was a bit daft, obviously. But for me, it's a soft red card because there's no real malice in it for me.
I agree.
But it's a daft red card, but it's soft, and nobody's thinking any worse of Daisy Maida. It's a shame for him that he misses out on Villa Park because, I mean, that's a game that he could really catch the eye in, It's a shame for him more than anything.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what the manager does there, especially if we're without Kyogo for that match. Yes, everyone, we're moving on to that because shortly after full time last night, which might be an interesting point in itself, there was a report from the French outlet Le Parisien, and they're reporting that the French side Rennes have agreed a deal to sign Kyogo, and they give a fee of €12 million. They say, and this is interesting, Kyogo probably played his last match for Celtic against Young Boys. There's a second bit of this from another French outlet. Now, it's a daily newspaper, West France, who are based in Rennes, and they kind of corroborate the Kyogo story. And they also say that it's their information that Jota will move to Celtic. Now, there's no mention of Jota in the original Parisian report. Very interesting, though, John, isn't it?
Intriguing. It's also the timing of it's quite interesting because it seems like people would have been annoyed if this kind of news had broken before the European game, and then as soon as the European game's out the way, the agents start talking and give permission for stuff to start moving, which I think adds credence to the whole story for me. But I mean, we all said this about Atlanta United as well, that seemed destined. Football's complicated. Again, if you're asking me, do I think Kyogo's going to go? I think it's a very strong possibility, and I don't think it's one of those. I don't think this is just paper talk. Firstly, it's coming from the French side, which is a little bit interesting, and then there's just all the factors around it just feels to be moving in that direction. A lot of people talking about, do you want Kyogo or Jota? I don't think it's not working like that. So if Kyogo stays, it doesn't mean we don't get Jota. If Kyogo goes, it doesn't mean we get Jota. I think it's all separate, isn't it? It's all separate. Yeah. So I don't want to see Kyogo go, but as we've spoken about before on this channel, I can understand the circumstances around letting Kyogo go between 10 and 50 million pounds. Just turned 30 years old. Apparently he might want the move in the sense of it'll enhance his possibility of playing for Japan in the World Cup, which might be his last chance at a major tournament with his country, and we all know how much he takes pride in that, so that is a factor. And then you're looking for a striker, so it's obviously Jota's not a direct replacement for Kyogo. You want Jota and you want another striker. But if you sell Kyogo, getting a player of the calibre of Jota on the left wing and sign another, a quality striker who can hit the ground running at Celtic, I don't have much issue in it because players are always going to leave Celtic, and Kyogo's leaving a legacy of being one of the most enjoyable Celtic players to watch in a generation, and that legacy is secured. So, football works. It all works like this. So it's not ideal, obviously, in the middle of the season, ahead of more massive European ties, to be letting go of Kyogo, but that's how football works sometimes, unfortunately.
Yeah, he'd be incredibly difficult to replace Kyogo, clearly. Even just people talk about him going off the ball, but even last night, you look at the chances that he created, and I know he was offside, but at that Champions League level, he took his goals well, and he was clearly very involved in the game. Very hard to replace. However, I personally do think it's possible. I don't think there's any doubt that Kyogo, since Brendan Rodgers has come in, hasn't been as effective as he was previously. that might be down to Brendan Rodgers' style. It may be down to Kyogo just getting a little bit older because he turned 30 last week. So, yeah, I mean, we got a comment in there talking about head versus heart, and that might kind of sum it up. Jason saying, my heart says don't sell Kyogo. My brain tells me if you can get 10 million for a 30-year-old striker, then yes. It may just be the time to take that money for Kyogo. Remember all the amazing things he's done for us, but possibly think that it's the time to maybe just freshen up that position. And I mean, Brendan Rodgers did pretty well first time at the clubs in terms of signing strikers, didn't he? I know there was a few rogue ones, but Moussa Dembele, Odsonne Edouard. If you got someone of that ilk in, I'm not talking about those guys specifically, but young players with good pedigree, bit of pace, bit of power. I do think this could work. However, we would have to sign a replacement. We can't be going into the rest of the season with Adam Ida / Daizen Maeda as our strikers.
We're getting a few peddlers in the chat of even entertaining the prospect of a Kyogo. Like, if it was up to me, if I was signing contracts at Celtic, I would keep Kyogo in for life. I would keep him at Celtic for life. I would keep him in a Celtic ambassadorial role for his entire post-retirement career. I would keep Kyogo around in Glasgow all the time. But the reality of football is that it works like this, and it feels like it's happening for me. So it's about how Celtic, what does a post-Kyogo Celtic look like? I think that's kind of what we're talking about here. Maybe it won't. Maybe it'll end up like Atlanta United. Maybe it's all just chat. But
seems more
Celtic
definitive.
Yeah, he's going to leave Celtic at some
it?
point. If it's not this transfer, it might be the next or the next. So we'll see.
Arthur's not happy with us. Celtic are bigger than any European team. I agree, Arthur. We're the biggest team on the planet. You don't need to disagree with me on that. Listen, it's going to be an interesting one. I feel like we've had this conversation already this month. So let's leave it there and we'll keep an eye and think. Just quickly on Jota, is it a yes? Yeah. Would you take him back?
100%.
Tierney and Jota. Oh,
Tierney, Jota, Kuhn on the other side. I mean, it's ridiculous. It would be fantastic for Celtic. Celtic fans would love it. So the transfer window can work both ways. You can take away players you love, but it can bring in players you love too. And someone like Jota and Tierney, people of that quality returning to Celtic for this kind of European push, this kind of new look Celtic, this new hungry Celtic in Europe with Brendan Rodgers pushing us forward, is something that has to excite you as a Celtic supporter for me.
Yeah, it's funny. I was actually thinking that earlier after the game when these reports came out, and obviously kind of gutted at the prospect of Kyogo potentially moving on, but just the thought of like Tierney returning, Jota returning, Champions League knockouts, Nicholas Kuhn just getting better and better, Arne Engels, all of these players. Like this, like what Brendan Rodgers is building here could genuinely be I don't know, could be the best Celtic team of 20 plus years. I mean, some people would maybe say it already is. And I guess now we've qualified for the Champions League knockouts. You start to get kind of actual arguments that you can, tangible arguments that you can kind of put forward. But something special is happening here, and it just seems like we're just going to push on now. And the fact that they've done this once, obviously next season we might have tougher fixtures. We're not even guaranteed to be in the league phase, but you just feel like this is going to go forward now with this team. It's very exciting.
But that's why you've got to ride the wave as it's happening, because you know that you can't really take anything for granted. We know that qualification campaigns in the summer can go badly wrong. So when Celtic are in this moment, you've got to enjoy it. I think supporters can't be in their head too much about, like say we go out in the next round, nobody can be in their heads too much about the disappointment of that. This has been a fantastic European campaign that's been so enjoyable. So you've just got to hold on to that, and because there's seasons where this won't happen. But Rodgers' chat in the press conference last night, the goal is to set Celtic up at this level on a consistent basis over the next number of years. That is obviously the goal. Celtic have a sense of control in that and what they do in the transfer market, and that's why the next couple of weeks is so important, because if we're qualifying for Europe next season, then you need to get good business done in January. That's how it works. We've said it before, but we saw it with Nicholas Kuhn last year. He arrives in January, takes a few months to settle in, and then he's on fire in the summer. And that's the value of bringing in players in January, which is a pretty difficult month for transfers. But if Celtic are serious about setting this as the benchmark going forward over the next 3 to 5 years, then they need to show that again in the transfer window, despite the joy and the optimism coming out of last night.
Just a final thought I'm having. Champions League knockout football, tick. League Cup, tick. League, you can probably start ticking that. Scottish Cup, big question mark. If we win the treble, and bearing in mind we've qualified for the knockouts of the Champions League, is it the best season of the century or longer?
Yeah, it's up there. It's up there. I don't see how you could say it isn't, because I think the big question mark for Rodgers, we know he's an absolute machine domestically, but the next step for him was the Europe, and that's kind of, if you think about Rodgers' place in the kind of pantheon of Celtic managers, then European stuff has been a question mark. If we can start to make progress there, then he shoots right up into everyone's thinking, obviously, apart from the big man himself. So it would be one of the best seasons this year if we win a treble and have had this European run. There's no doubt about that. And I think just some of the football we played in the early part of the season was so good as well. I know, like over the last 60 weeks domestically, sometimes it's been a bit of like a struggle to see Celtic get up to those levels again. But some of the football in that early part of the season was sensational. If Celtic can start playing that free-flowing, aggressive attacking football again, as well as all of this, then you have to say it's one of the best teams we've seen, in our memory at least.
Amazing. Villa next Wednesday, Champions League draw next Friday, draw in that we'll have two teams potentially, and we'll find out which one of the two. And then I believe 3 weeks, just under 3 weeks for the first leg, and then the second leg's the week after. So we could still be all out of Europe in a month's time, but that's a positive thought. It will still be a positive European campaign regardless. Okay, plenty more on the website, everyone. Lots going on there, John.
Yeah, we've got stuff with. So Ryan was obviously there last night. He did the video last night, so we've got stuff. Got the Brendan Rodgers press conference up on the channel, so take a look at that. Ryan's doing a more in-depth, again, a reflection piece on last night, using some of the data that's exclusively available to us. But also, I kind of talked to him this morning. I want him to sum up what like the emotions inside Celtic Park last night, because I think that fan factor is such a big part of the story of last night, and especially in the wake of everything that Rodgers has been saying about being united with the crowd and etc. I think it was just a massive part of that. So Ryan will be doing that for us. And obviously, again, we're all over transfer stuff as and when it happens. A few irons in the fire there. So we're trying our hardest to provide as much good, informative Celtic coverage as possible across the channel and the website. So, keep tuned to us.
Excellent. Enjoy your Thursday, everyone, and the safe in the knowledge that you're supporting a Champions League knockout team, and we've got all of that to look forward to. And Dundee this weekend as well.
Yeah, someone not even mentioned that
out earlier.
Yeah, you can get into that on tomorrow's briefing.
Yeah. Okay. Right. Thanks, everyone. I'll catch you then.